What's up, everybody? This is Ricardo Rodriguez.
And Matthew Messick.
And this is
the Profits Over Wages podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Profits Over Wages podcast, where we do weekly interviews with highly successful business owners and entrepreneurs. We discuss life, business, and entrepreneurship to bring forward the lessons learned from success and failure, and most importantly, have fun while doing it. On episode 37 of the podcast, we sit down with Joel Schaub, VP of Mortgage Lending at Guaranteed Rate. Joe is a highly recognized Chicago mortgage specialist with 13 years of experience in lending. He's one of the top loan officers at Guaranteed Rate and a member of the President's Club. Joe is also recognized as the top 1% of all loan officers nationwide for annual volume, having exceeded $100 million over the last 3 years. He has handled 2,200 plus transactions with a career loan volume in excess of $350 million. He's also been awarded 100% customer satisfaction every single year since 2010. On this episode, we talk about how Joel has been able to get to $100 million in volume over the last 3 years, and he gives advice on how to get started and how to grow your book of business as a new loan officer. We also talk about how Joel was able to not only survive, but thrive after the real estate market crash, and why in business you must focus on building lifelong relationships and giving back as much as you can. Enjoy the show.
Thanks so much for taking out the time to meet with us. I know you're a really busy guy, one of the top mortgage brokers in the city of Chicago.
Well, I appreciate being on here too. It's not all about me, it's about giving back.
Yeah, I like that. So for those of our audience who are not familiar with you, if you can do a little bit of rundown and just kind of tell people who you are and what you do.
Here I am, guys. So Joel Schaub, I've been a VP of Lending at Guaranteed Rate now since 2005. I started in this business 15 years ago when I was at another mortgage company, right? And we always heard, sorry, I chose Guaranteed Rate. I'm like, who are these guys? That's a stupid name.
Who the fuck is this people?
Yeah.
It's still my business.
And it was one of those things where we said, that's a dumb name. Let's go check them out. And that's 15, years ago. I've been here now 13 full years. And so once you go over and you see what they were actually doing, I found out that I could actually either offer my clients a lower rate or I could cover a big chunk of their closing costs. And they were doing it better. It's all about technology.
Nice. Yeah. So you want to go with like the best. Look, I mean, where did you start before that? Like, how'd you get into the mortgage game in the first place?
I always knew I wanted to be in real estate, but I didn't want to be the guy driving people around in my car. I was always into numbers, right? I was a finance geek, right? So I went to DePaul. I got my undergrad in finance and real estate. I took every real estate class that they had at DePaul and still never got a minor. I took every single class. And it was before they had the real estate program. So I have a finance and real estate and a degree in finance and a real estate minor, but I didn't even actually get that because there wasn't a program yet. So I was just so focused on real estate.
That's pretty new, right? The real estate.
Well, actually, yeah, I went to DePaul too, and they actually made a real estate program. It was either my sophomore or junior year, so like things like 05 or 06, yeah, probably.
Absolutely,
right
yeah. When I was there, we took every single class that was available. I just immersed myself in it. So I found out that I wanted to be in real estate, but I didn't want to be the person driving somebody around. It was the spring of 2002, and I just saw a flyer for a mortgage company at DePaul. And I was literally just doing lunch, and I saw a flyer for United Financial Mortgage. And I took a summer internship, and I literally loved it. I literally fell in love with the business at that time. And as a young age, as a young person, I decided I could actually do this. And so I didn't look at it as a job. I literally didn't care what they were paying me. It was a point where I was getting paid about $5 an hour. So I literally mentored and stayed late and learned how the guys that were making six figures were doing it, and literally just decided I could replicate that and grow that to another level. And that's the reason why all of us left that company and came over to Guaranteed Rate in June of 05.
What was it about mortgages that interested you in the first place?
I like the numbers. I literally like two things. The numbers to me are what I'm into. And then it's literally, it seems cliche, but you're actually doing something different on every transaction, right? On the mortgage side of things, you're either helping somebody get into a home. That's very big. Or you're helping somebody do a financial transaction like a multifamily purchase or an investment. And so it's not the same thing like if you're an accountant and you're doing somebody's tax returns, it's the same shit, right? It really is. And so I knew that if I got into real estate, I'd actually be able to do something different on every transaction. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Don't you see every 100%. Deal that you do is something that's different, correct?
Yeah.
100%. Every deal comes with its own bullshit, yeah.
Good and bad. I see the positive in everything. I really do.
So you've pretty much been in real estate your entire adult life.
By the time I'm 40, I'll have almost 20 years of high-level lending experience, and that's almost unheard of. For people that are in the loan officer arena, most of them have an average age right now of 48 to 52. Right? Nobody goes into it today saying, I want to be a loan officer. And there's plenty of different reasons for that, but I absolutely love it. And I mentor people and we're hiring every single day. So it's about growing. It's not a job for me. It's literally a passion.
So, I mean, like, how does that work? I mean, as a mortgage broker, when you start, are you paid like hourly, like base? Is it straight commission? Is it something you got to, because it's like it is your own business that you got to grow and you got to go out and get clients.
This is a great question. Okay, I love this. I remember I was 22 years old, and when I got out of DePaul, they hired me full-time, right? I did an internship at United Financial Mortgage, and they promised once I graduated they would give me $3,000 a month, a salary. And I go, you got to be lying. This has got to be fake. I can't believe $3,000 every month? You're going to pay me $3,000, wait, every single month? And at that time, it was a lot of money coming from somebody in Michigan, right? I just was the first person in my family to go to college. I was always striving for something better than what I saw around me. So when I got the first year, I worked it as though I wasn't getting a salary, okay? I worked it as though I was 100% commission. I worked it as though I wanted to do this for 10, 15, or 20 years. And that's where I'm at today. It was based on not relying on that monthly income that I had to go out there and actually grow the business. And that's what I encourage people on that are listening to do is don't worry about the money you're making today. Okay? The more money that you're actually guaranteed today, the less you'll actually go out and earn. So if you have a choice between getting 100% commission and actually going out and doing it for yourself or having them rely on a salary, I would absolutely go no salary, jump right in. Okay, it can be scary, but in the long run, it's going to be a lot better for you.
What does it say? Burning your bridges or like burning your boats, like behind you. There's a Think and Grow Rich story about a general or something. Have you read that book?
It's called I like Robert Kiyosaki, right?
The Think and Grow Rich was on Napoleon Hill.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a story about this general. They were gonna go and conquer some land, and the guy just like he burned the boats, so they have no way of going home. It was like.
Oh my God!
We either win or we win. Like there's no choice. So
I think they found out later that he actually didn't do that, but he said that he did. Yeah, I know. That's really cool.
But it's crazy.
So yeah, what's something you'd say like? Okay, so mortgage brokers that are out there now that say they're just starting out or they're struggling. What's like some advice you would give them like right off the bat to like go out and grow the business?
You got to differentiate yourself, guys. Here's the number one thing. It's literally about being a personality and doing something different that connects with your people. And it's got to be from the heart, right? So what I've always done is found stuff that actually resonates with me. And I have a couple of things that were near and dear to me it's all about giving back. And if you can actually be very charitable, your business grows. So every single year I try to make sure that I give over $50,000 of my income to charity. And when you actually are out there giving, you'll gain. So two things. Find something that's authentic to you and be on a board. Make sure that you're doing time for charity and connecting with people that are better than you. I don't want to say better than you, right? But somebody that you can learn from. You really are like the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most. So find people that you can learn from. And that'll be one of the big things that can help you in any business, whether you're a loan officer or not.
Find a mentor.
If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
I know. Yeah, that's a good question.
Where in Michigan did you grow up?
So I was from a small town called Traverse City, Michigan. I'll be there next week, actually. Shout out to TC.
I don't know. Where's that?
So it's further north. So from Chicago to Traverse City, door to door, it is 300 miles, so 5 hours straight north. It's a resort town. It's kind of the Wisconsin Dells of the North, right? There are 15 or 20 golf courses. There are 2 casinos. There's plenty of outdoor activities in the summer for skiing and boating, and then in the winter, downhill skiing, snowboarding, snowmobiling, etc. So it was one of these resort towns, and I knew I wanted to get out. Not that I don't love it, but I always wanted to move. And if I went to a college in state, I was either going to be at East Lansing or I was going to be at Ann Arbor, right? So I decided on Chicago.
Good choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so like, going back to what Matt was saying, like advice or tips for people that want to get into the mortgage industry, like how do you grow that book of business, right? Because that's kind of like on your own.
It is.
Like, are you reaching out to brokers? Are you doing like how? Like I'm looking at it from like a brand new perspective. Like, how is it that you actually get those first clients?
Let's go back to how I did it.
Right, or we could do that. Like,
Yeah,
how did you get your
right.
like how did you get your first loan?
So it was all slow and steady. I actually found a niche back in the day. This would have been 03 and 04. There was a lot of people that were behind on Cook County property taxes. And so this is just one niche. But I hired a runner to go over to the county and pull all of the records of people that were past due on property taxes that had equity in their homes. And they didn't know that they could actually refinance and take the property, the funds for back taxes and lower their payment.
How'd you get that idea? Sorry.
I'll give a shout out to the guy who hired me. It was a gentleman by the name of Kyle Gillespie who was doing the exact same thing. So it's never recreating the wheel, right? Just finding somebody who's done something successful. And so he would literally have me calling on folks that were behind. And we literally were the ones that were actually providing a solution when there was a lot of people out there that were overcharging on fees and doing so many different things. I was actually driving down to all sorts of parts of the city and sitting with coffee tables with folks, actually showing them, here's your payment, here's how far behind you are on the taxes. We could actually use the equity in the property to pay off the taxes and lower your payment. And so the mark of somebody who's doing it well, not to pat myself on the back, is that there's not too many mortgage guys today that were doing loans in 03 and 04 where those borrowers would call you back. You were not really taking care of them. They were overcharging them and giving them higher rates, and there was a lot of subprime mortgages going on.
Yeah.
I have only 5-star reviews. I literally looked, guys, from that long-term approach. How could I take care of these people now, even if it wasn't making a killing? Because all those guys were swinging for the fences. They were charging points and doing a ton of fees and going, and when they're getting ready to sign on the dotted line, they'll hold their thumb over all the fees and say, sign here. We weren't doing that. I wanted to build something where today I still have people from 14 years ago that say, hey, you helped my mom do a mortgage. Can I talk to you? It's unheard of. And that's how my phone rings.
Literally about focusing on and building relationships. Then instead of being transactional, making money once, now you grow it for the long term.
Yeah, let's go back to that runner.
Sure.
So you would have them find people who are behind on their taxes,
Sure.
and it would just call them.
Yeah,
Or
back
you go
then,
to the house, or how did you get their information?
yeah, I would go to houses after I'd already made the connection with them, and they go, honey, what are you doing here? Get inside. I was like a small white boy walking through a neighborhood with a suitcase, and I had paperwork, and she goes, get in here. People are literally in neighborhoods where you probably shouldn't be walking around after hours, and I was there, didn't know, but I was there to help people, and I would sit at their coffee table, and it would be a situation where they were $5 or $6 grand behind on property taxes, or even worse. But they had the equity in the home, and they just didn't have anybody to connect with. They were always getting solicitations in the mail, and they really didn't have somebody. So I would just break through. I made the phone calls, and I said, based on what I see here, I wouldn't waste your time or mine. Could we get together for a coffee? Yeah.
Because they could lose the house for if somebody buys their taxes and keeps paying them for a couple of years. So
Yeah, and they had equity in the home, and they just simply didn't know it. They didn't know how to do it. And at that time, you literally just need somebody that was actually on your side. So I just built it slow and steady, and those are the people that even today will call me. I had a conversation from late last week, and I even remembered her name. I said, Cheryl, I probably haven't done a loan for you since 2006. And she goes, damn, Joel, you remember. And those are the things. So if you do it slow and steady, that's how you can get ahead, and you're not really focused on what you're earning today. I like this phrase. People say get rich quick, and there's nothing about it that works. I like getting rich slow.
Like, get rich either way. But slow's better for sure.
Well, there's no such thing as getting rich quick, right? I mean, unless you hit the lottery. So build it slow.
yeah,
and
but
that's
then
what
you
we're
end
doing
up
here.
broke with a bunch of hookers and coke, and
Yeah.
with your money gone in like a couple months.
You don't want that. No, you want to build something for a long time. Absolutely.
Yeah, so talking about that, let's switch gears a little bit. Like, so you got into the mortgage industry in the mid 2000s, and a few years later, there's the market crash, and a lot of it was from all these subprime mortgages and mortgage brokers and banks and all that. Can you kind of maybe talk to us about that, about from your perspective, like what you saw if you saw it coming, and then, you're still here, you survived, and, you're thriving now. Kind of what the difference between the people who didn't make it and then what you and the other people who are on the other side of that.
Absolutely.
Kind of that whole debacle from your perspective.
Had you switched to guaranteed by then?
Yeah, '05. Yeah. So I'll actually break that up into two things because I'm a geek for this. I love talking about the subprime mortgage crisis and what was happening because we all kind of hear it and we don't actually understand it unless you were in it and seeing it. So
Right.
I'll give you guys the kind of condensed version. We'll try to do it in about 2 minutes to give the listeners an idea of actually what the hell was going on? How could we not have seen this happening? And how the people that got through it are probably better off for it. So you think about '05 and '06, and the concept was that property values were going up, right? But there was never a contingency plan if property values were to even go down. So they built all these pricing models on a 5% appreciation, and the banks did not care if you put down no money and you were self-employed and you didn't show any pay stubs, right? You could do stated income, stated assets with no money down. And the banks had a model that was set up that even if you didn't make the payment and I lent you $100,000, in 2 years the house will be worth 110, so I'm fine, I'll just sell it. Well, flash forward to 3 or 4 years when there was a little bit of tumble in the market and pricing, all the values really took a hit, okay? And what happened was the people that were doing the business correct reaped a benefit. So I was sitting there with hundreds of past clients that I actually really did take care of. When rates dropped, I was simply able to make a phone call to them and help them out again. So the people that were really taking advantage of folks were out of the business. But the guys that were around us and the company that I worked for, and there's hundreds of good colleagues in the business, even if they're not at guaranteed rate, that were doing the business right, they reaped a big benefit because when rates dropped, you could actually take care of clients and call them up. So I remember a time when somebody would tell me, oh, I'm so sorry you're in the mortgage business around '09 and 2010. And those are some of my biggest years, really. Some of the biggest years for volume because you had hundreds of people that were at a rate of 6%. And I could proactively call them and waive all of their fees and drop them $200-300 a month. Wow. Yeah. And it doesn't happen if you were not taking care of people up front.
Yeah.
No, so you pretty much just got over it going through, just doing refis, right?
Absolutely. And then I would actually help people on strategic defaults. People, you never hear this from a mortgage guy, but I would actually help people and say, this is not a property you should keep paying on. And we would actually help them strategically default. And it wouldn't be something that most mortgage guys would say, stop paying your mortgage payment. But I literally looked at every case individually. And when somebody owed $252,000 on a condo that's worth $110,000, we're going to mail the keys in. And I actually taught people how to do it. Okay. 4 years later, their credit's back to perfect and they're buying a place again. Okay. So being an advocate for people, even when it's not what a bank wants me to tell them, which is, hey, stop paying your damn payment. In a lot of situations, it was the best thing for a client to do.
So you tell them to do a short sale?
A lot of times. Or you could do cash for keys. There was a lot of different things where the property was so far upside down, there was no short sale, that you would literally mail in the keys. Yep.
Did you have to convince them to do that? Or what is, it's pretty obvious looking at it, hindsight, right? It's like if you're upside down, just
people have a moral obligation to make payments, right? Most of the people I deal with are good people. Most of us really, if you sign on the dotted line that you're going to borrow some funds, that you want to make every effort to make the payment back. But at those times, man, things were different. It was completely upside down. We never saw an end in sight, and we never, here we are. We're living in the future now. It's 2018. Property values are up for the first time in years, right? If you had a property in 2012 and 13 that was worth 210, it's worth 310 now, right? You could never see that actually being the case, and here we are. So people do get through it. They just need people that are on their side. So I'm happy that I was able to do that for so many folks.
No, definitely.
So, yeah, from that, you said those were some of your biggest years, like 9 and 10.
Oh, yeah.
So, where are you now, and how have you, you personally as a business, how have you scaled your business and escalated and all that? Because I see, you have do a lot of sponsorships. Like I see you're out there in a lot of events. You have billboards. You're on, I see commercials. You're really out there and you have a lot of exposure.
I was in an Uber down Lincoln the other day, and I saw his picture. Was it Lincoln, Southport? right above the Chase,
Sure.
and I took
Yeah,
a
I know.
picture.
I do a lot of
I took
billboards,
a picture and I
try
sent
to
it to
target
him.
Chase.
I'm like, damn, bro, you everywhere.
That's right. Well, it takes money to make money in almost any business, right? So I'll kind of focus it on that. It's not all about me, but I do have several different billboards, and I do television commercials on Comcast Sportsnet. And I'm doing these things to not just talk about programs and rates. I actually want to be somebody that people can see and relate to, okay? And when it comes to doing some of these like billboard spots, like the one that you'd seen, for example, there is something kind of funny about finding a Chase Bank and then putting a billboard above it that says, "Just call Joel."
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
See, I was about talking to this Chase, but I'll just call this guy.
Look at that. It says "Just call Joel." So it's about giving back. So one of the things that we've done over these years was I've created a give back program that actually inside the business and out. And the inside of the business, what I've done is I partner with people that are realtors that are growing their business. And if they refer business over, I will waive the fees for the client. So last year I gave over $244,000 back to buyers out of my commission. And that was about a $1,500 closing cost credit on almost every single transaction. So when you actually are partnering with somebody that's not just looking at their bottom line and trying to make a commission, I'm looking at it for the long-term approach.
So what type of impact does that make? What are normal closing costs for a buyer?
Sure. The lender fees at all these banks are about the same, guys. So when it comes to Chase, Wells Fargo, Quicken Loans, Pearl, Wintrust, they're anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500. Okay. So at guaranteed rate, our fees are just under $1,290, and then I'll give a $1,500 closing cost credit, so they don't have to pay any of the guaranteed rate fees. So it's one of those things where I make a little bit less on every transaction, but that's how I get to 20 to 30 mortgage transactions every single month, is based on me partnering with people and getting them to send us business.
How did you decide to do that? And when?
It goes back to United Financial Mortgage days. It goes back to when I first was sitting there learning the business. I saw all these guys high-fiving over commissions, okay? And then I saw a gentleman that I still talk to this day, Osvaldo Gutierrez, Ozzy. Ozzy had most of his clients that were Hispanic, buying single-family houses, and good people. They were just building equity. They weren't trying to do 100% financing. He was just building the business the right way, and I just mentored after him. I said, "So what are you doing? How are you getting so many transactions?" And he told me, "They're all my family. I give part of my commission back to these guys. I'm helping them." And that stuck with me. He was giving something back. He was always taking part of his commission and lowering it to help a family get into a house. And he was only doing 2 or 3 transactions a month, but he was literally building the business the way that I thought I could scale it. Yeah. Okay? Take that and contrast that with the other young guys in the office that were literally doing $100,000 a month in commissions. They're not in the business anymore. Right. They literally burned all the bridges. They were making tons of money. They went and bought $1 million houses or $500,000 properties, and they foreclosed because they didn't have any income coming in, boats and hoes. It was one of those things where you had a choice, and I saw a path, and it's nothing that makes me great or better than the next, but I wanted to build it slowly, and I wanted to build it correctly. I wasn't trying to go hit a home run. So I just took what Ozzy was doing, and he was treating everybody like family, and he was giving part of his commission back. And isn't that a better way to grow a business?
Oh, yeah. But relationship-wise, get repeat clients, give back, help people out.
It truly is. It's a giver's game. Yeah, I live by that. So when I talk about giving back for charity and I talk about giving back to the clients, when you give, you really have so much more in life. You have real friends. You have real abundance. And it seems like hokey and it seems out there, but I believe it. Like, I'm a dork for that kind of thing. I really
karma,
believe.
Man.
Yeah.
It's
I
karma.
put all this energy out, and I'm a living proof that it works. It really works.
What type of charity events do you do? Because I saw that, was it the Realtors for the Rescue?
Yes, that's the most recent one. And I like to plug that. So I'm on the board of directors for Real Estate to the Rescue. It was formerly Realtors to the Rescue. And we recently did an event on May of this year where we sold 650 tickets to the Cubs White Sox game. And we raised almost $100,000 for charity that day. And that was for no-kill animal shelters here in Chicago for cats and dogs. And that day for the Cubs Saturday White Sox game, I was honored enough to be able to take the rosin bag out to the mound for the Wrigley Field event and wave to all the fans. And it was all the prestige of a first pitch without any pressure.
Wait, let me stop you really quick, because aren't you like one of the biggest Cubs fans? Like you have this Cubs suit, right? Where it just says Cubs
you've
logos
seen
all
that.
over the place.
Wait,
Like,
what
you went
banner?
out in this Cubs suit.
So instead of having to walk out and do the first pitch, you could walk out and you take the rosin bag out. And it's a
What's that?
bag that the pitcher dries his hands with, right?
Oh.
So it's
Ricardo's not familiar
Yeah, I
with
don't-
baseball, so he's a soccer fan.
Oh, of
Doesn't know
course,
about
football,
baseball.
right? Football.
Yeah, the
It's-
football that you actually play with your feet.
With your foot? Yeah, I know. Transitioning back to what it was just a way that we were actually able to promote the charity, and I was lucky enough to be picked to walk out to Wrigley Field.
awesome.
But the suit that you're talking about was just one of these fun things that I like to do. Is I bought a suit that has 188 Cubs logos all over it, and it's funky and it's wacky. And I've put up billboards wearing this suit that say "Cubs fan, mortgage man." And with our guaranteed rate partnership with the White Sox, which we love, I wanted to bring some of the guaranteed rate love to the north side.
So I thought Gundy, one of our previous guests, Michael Gunderson, was the biggest Cubs fan. So you go to his office and he has all these like bobbleheads on the wall.
Sure does.
But I think you have him beat. with
When you
that.
walk into Gundy's office downstairs, it's like a baseball card shop, and he's one of my best friends. I love this guy to death, and it literally is one of those things where he does it as well. If you can go out and find something that you're passionate about, people want to connect with you. When it comes to real estate, it can be kind of stiff, right? So you gotta, and there's a lot of emotions. So you really just want people that are on your side. You don't want a salesperson, and I always believe this, that people always want to buy, but they never want to be sold something,
Yeah.
right? So I don't go to these closings in a suit and tie. I literally show up. I might have a suit jacket on, but I show up as the friend. I was the guy who did the mortgage, and I'm here to make sure things are taken care of, and I'll maybe give a pair of my Cubs tickets to the buyer, and those are the types of things that are always given back.
It's most people's biggest purchase of their life, and they're sitting all nervous like shit. What if I get fired? What if this happens? They just want to be feel a little bit more comfortable.
That's what we do in the mortgage business. Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork that it makes it really stiff, but if you can actually make it easy with technology, which Guaranteed Rate is really on top of their game, it really helps, and then that helps grow the business as well.
Didn't you also do like a Kentucky Derby event?
This year on May 5th, I held over 150 realtors, financial advisors, and past clients at the most recent bar called Brick House Tavern. It's right next to Wrigley Field, and we had a outstanding party, and that's what I'm known for. I feel like sometimes I'm better at throwing parties and doing events than absolutely doing the mortgages.
What is the event coordinator?
Oh man, I know, but I love
party
mortgages so much. So what we had was it was a themed event, and it was all based on the Kentucky Derby, where everyone was getting raffle tickets, and the winners got real prizes such as a gift, a round trip tickets to Las Vegas. I gave away a 65-inch TV. I gave away an Apple Watch. To start the party, people looked under their seats, and I hid $100 bills under certain seats. I gave away $100 gift certificates to people that had best hat and best dressed. Everyone walked away with something, and that's what I like, is this whole idea of giving, and it truly does help you grow your business. And you don't need to have that kind of budget. Like that was a Saturday, and I spent $20,000 on an event. You don't need to have that kind of budget to do to grow your business. Coming up in July, my next event is at the Yacht Club, and I'm literally spending nowhere near that. It's a bingo day. So look for your calendars, guys. I'm doing an event at the end of July. It's a Thursday afternoon, but I'm still doing big prizes such as a 65-inch TV, round trip tickets to Las Vegas. But you could literally pare it back, and if you're out there trying to grow your business, find something that you're passionate about and then connect with people based on that. So for me, it's the Cubs that you mentioned, and it's also the real estate to the rescue. So it's about cats and dogs, and you'll always see photos of me and my wife with our little boy, Louie. He's a King Charles Cavalier. And people love dogs, right? People love cats. And so, yeah. Are you not a cat or a dog person?
I like dogs.
You like dogs, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Cats just creep me out.
Okay.
They're like, they want attention, but they don't want attention. It's like their personality is just like a little too strong.
Oh my gosh, we'll cut that out later. That's fine.
Hold on, I got what
Dogs are just like happy all the time.
That's
like,
really
it
good
doesn't matter
explanation.
what you do. It's
Yeah.
like they're always happy.
they say. A dog will see you and like, oh, this person does everything for me. They must be God. Then a cat will look at you and be like, oh, this person does everything for me. I must be God.
That's so true. Wow, look at that.
But
Those are great.
yeah, it's all nice and good to talk about like the good stuff. But what would you say some of the challenges that you've had growing your business have been like, and how you overcame those?
Well, when we had the financial crash, right, we literally had a situation where property values were going down so much that it flushed out a lot of people in the business, right? And so at that point in time, it was actually really, you didn't know what the next day was going to bring. So for us, it was really good that we never got into a lot of that subprime mortgage business that everybody else was high-fiving over. So instead of literally like putting your foot on the gas and doing all the loans that we shouldn't have, Guaranteed Rate literally stepped back and made sure that we were going to have a job the next day. And all my employees were going to have a job the next day. So I'd say some of those times that were really tough is you didn't know what the next weeks were going to bring. Would you have any transactions or would you have any clients buying houses? So that's difficult then. And then flash forward to today, if I really want to talk about some things that are difficult, is that it's a lot of talk about it being kind of a commodity, right? When people are talking about mortgage guys, what's the number one thing that you think they ask? Like, what are your rates, right? And we get shopped to death, and we're really encouraged, the consumer to go out and talk to 3 or 4 different mortgage guys, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great, like a little bit of competition. But what people really don't know is that really most banks have the same rate. There's really not going to be one bank that all of a sudden is going to be a half a point different or a quarter point different. It really goes down to what the bank's charging the client in fees, right? And so when you can work with somebody that waives all the fees, that was the number one thing that I decided that I could do. Since rates really are dependent on the market, I can't really control rates. But what I control are some of the fees. And so I like to make sure that I can cover some of that back.
Well, yeah, that differentiates you out in the market place and gives you a competitive advantage.
Sure. So not too negative, right? You asked
No,
me for
no,
something.
no.
Yeah. I try to accentuate the positive and everything. I like this saying that's true. It's not what happens to you. It's how you react to what happens is the way that your whole outlook on life is. Okay. So if you let something get you down, it will get you down. If you're able to let things that come at you that are negative roll off from you and literally see the positive in things, you can actually go to bed at night sleeping well and wake up ready to kick ass and take the next day.
Where do you see your business going in the next few years here? Like, what are your plans for the future?
Yeah, I want to hit over 100 million in production, right? So right now I'm at a point where I'm closing 20 to 30 transactions a month, and that'll get me somewhere close to $100 million of production. And in the mortgage business, let's say you're doing 5 transactions a month, you're making a good living. Right? It doesn't take too many deals to get over 6 figures, but I really want to grow this. And if I get over $100 million of production, that's a personal income level that'll exceed $1 million, and it's really actually doable for me. Right now, I've hired several new people that are helping me grow, and right now it's about those connections. So I see this continuing to grow at Guaranteed Rate. When I started, I was employee number 171, and we've now grown it to north of 3,000 employees. And when I started, we were just one of thousands of mortgage companies. And since 80 to 85% of them are gone. They're literally gone. You remember the days when you would drive almost by every strip mall and different centers, and it would be ABC Mortgage or Switzerland Mortgage or American Mortgage. Everyone could get into the mortgage business and think they could kick ass. And I'll always tell this story that I like of 05, I think it was summer of 05. Back to the stated income where everybody could get a mortgage, right? I would give my business card to people that didn't really have documentable income. Dancers of the adult variety, cab drivers are another one, and something dropped, but we're still here.
It's okay.
So this cab driver took my business card and he looked at it and he goes, "Oh, I also do mortgages, man."
No way.
Shit.
And so at that time, it was like everyone was getting into the mortgage business because you make $100,000 doing 3 or 4 transactions a month. And it literally sucked the life out of, they weren't doing it right. right? If you were kind of like the jack of all trades, but the master of none, it got all those people that are out of the business, okay? So flash forward to today where we're going to continue to grow, be efficient, and kick ass. I see in the next couple of years that it's no problem for me to exceed $100 million of production and continue to grow.
Also, if you want to speak on a guaranteed rate specifically, because now it's the number one lender in Illinois, and then it just took over the naming rights a couple years ago for the White Sox field. Like, did you see that coming, or how did that come about? 'Cause I'm kind of interested in that story.
Oh yeah,
I'm
that's a Sox fan.
Yeah, they're a great partnership, and I'll be here to tell everybody that you don't have to be either a Cubs fan or a Sox fan. As a diehard Cubs fan, I love going down to see the White Sox play. One, it's always easy to get tickets.
Yeah.
I heard they got better food too.
They do, and so I always have people hitting me up saying, "Could you get me White Sox tickets?" And I go, "Yeah. Do you have $5? You could go on StubHub and get tickets pretty easily." That's not a knock on White Sox fans. I love it. But when we got the naming rights, what it really did was there are 30 baseball teams in the United States, and to have your name on a ballpark is absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And in the beginning, there was a lot of backlash, and I loved it because there's no such thing as bad publicity. Okay. And once people actually got to know what guaranteed rate was, it wasn't Victory Auto Wreckers Field. It wasn't any of these other payday loan companies. Once they actually figured out guaranteed rate was a big employee producer for the state of Illinois. We have thousands of employees, and we're actually one of the people that are actually growing in the state of Illinois when a lot of people are leaving. It's really proud. It's a proud moment when I'd been at the company for over 10 years to see them actually take the plunge and actually put up big time dollars to get a marketing piece like that. Now, here's why, right? Every time you turn on the news or you flip open a newspaper, they have to say, you see it says guaranteed rate field. So it kind of gets into people's minds. And it's one of those things where it's a company that actually is growing. So I'm very proud for it.
That's awesome.
So you were talking about that you just hired a bunch of people. Let's talk about what is it about guaranteed rate and your process that makes you guys different. Because before we started the podcast here, you were showing us some of the deals that you're working on, and some of them you got the contract you said on like May 20th.
Sure. And
then you had clear to close like June 5th. So that's like 2 weeks.
That's my average turn time start to
So it's
finish.
like I'm just, for people who are not familiar with you guys' process, if you kind of, lay it out for them to see what the difference is.
Not to brag, but I'm a mortgage expert, right? So I teach clients right up front what's needed, and I won't take on every single transaction. I'll take on the transactions that I know that I can kick ass and complete start to finish in half or a third of the time that some of my people in the industry take to complete a transaction, right? So some of my colleagues at another bank take 3 or 4 weeks to go from start to finish.
Or longer.
It's technology driven. So everything from our digital mortgage where clients can go online and submit their information for review in 8 to 10 minutes. But it doesn't just stop there. It's not about just technology. It's actually having somebody on the back end that's an expert to actually consult with them, because it's not all about payment rate. It's literally what are you comfortable with paying, right? So we've created a model of hiring the best of the best so that it's not just a call center. We're not just sitting here looking at numbers. We're really diving in and trying to find the best financial solution for a lot of people. And that's just not the case a lot of times in the mortgage business. So with that said, how do we take these files that I have at any given time? I have 50 or 60 pre-approval letters out at any given time. I'm taking files when a contract comes in and taking them to get an underwriting approval within 24 hours. And I'm waiting for appraisal and title 3 to 4 days later. We're clearing any conditions, and I usually have a final clear to close in 14 days. It's unheard of.
Well, the huge thing too is you have everyone on the team is here at the same location. You're not outsourcing it to other states. And it doesn't have to come back and forth and all that.
Yeah, because we've had deals where it's like, oh, like where's it at? Oh, it's an underwriting.
And they don't know.
What the fuck does that mean?
What does
Where's that?
It
It's
just
some
goes
shelter
somewhere, like
Russia underneath.
But here, your underwriters are like
They work for us. Yeah, they're on
5
our
feet
side.
away.
Yeah, so directly behind us, you can't see this if you're listening, but I have my whole staff. So sitting right there, you have Derek, Bryce, and Paul, and what they're doing is actually working on my team. Their process is so much different than a bank, and there's nothing wrong with, like, say, a Chase Bank. But what happens is the left hand doesn't talk to the right hand. A paperwork starts here, and then it literally gets sent to Cincinnati, Ohio. If it's past 5:30, they're not looking at it. There's no drive, and there's nothing wrong with them as a company, but the idea that Guaranteed Rate created was this pod model. We've created a pod system where the people are accountable, and they're actually bonused based on working and closing files and closing them fast.
So they're incentivized to get them done.
So here's the perfect example. If you work at another bank and it's 5:30 and you take a file and the client got a contract and you give it to the processor, they go, shit, it's 5:30, I want to go home. Here's another file. Here it's, oh my gosh, I got another file that I get to work on and I'm bonused for it. So these clients actually know I've created a culture around us, and our CEO talks about it all the time. It's all about this culture, and it's about making sure the client is first, and everyone says it, but not everybody does it.
Right. And you said small teams, right?
Yes. So there are 9 people that are on my team, and what we do is we all have a
baseball team.
Yeah, it's a role to play. Yeah, I have a full infield, an outfield, and a battery, right? And so for you, that means a pitcher and a catcher, right? Okay. But it's a whole team, right? And the whole concept is making sure that at every step of the way we're doing something a day or two faster than the competition. And over a course of a month, that literally adds several days of time where the file is done. It's clear to close, and that's what helps us grow. Okay, this year we're going to be north of $30 billion of mortgages for a privately held company here out of Ravenswood. It's absolutely unheard of that 10 years ago you would have ever thought that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So for, say, we had a client or somebody wants to go through you guys for a mortgage, how does that process work from start to finish?
I speak to everybody. Every single person that comes through, they actually get to speak to me.
Like you don't say, hey, go to this website.
Once I have a conversation with them, they have 2 options. They can either get me their application through a digital mortgage that takes 8 to 10 minutes, or we can take it over the phone. Nowadays, people actually like that website. Instead of sitting there and saying, now tell me your date of birth. Now tell me your social. Now where did you work? They could do all that in 8 to 10 minutes, and then I could have a high-level review. Okay. Years ago, I used to think why I was successful and how I got so many deals was that I was really good at asking those questions. That's really not what it is. Once that information is in front of me, now Guaranteed Rate's giving me the technology to actually be able to help them on price, get them a better rate, waive fees. And I can do that because all the information is in front of me versus me taking 20 or 30 minutes and going through and asking them all these questions. I can give them a high-level review once they've put their information into the digital mortgage.
What questions are you asking on that initial call?
I always want to know 2 things. Whenever somebody's getting pre-approved, I love having this conversation, and this is how I really help people. They know that I'm on their side versus just a sales guy. I say it's not what you're pre-approved for, it's what you're comfortable with spending. Right? Let me say it again. A lot of people, they want to know, what am I pre-approved for? But a lot of times you're pre-approved for $400,000 or $500,000. You're not going to want to spend $3,000 a month. So I want to know what you're comfortable with spending. And then I'm going to help you find what properties you should be out looking at. What happens all the time is that you get a bank pre-approval, and that bank guy wants you to go out and spend all the
$500,000, $600,000.
So I've built so much trust over the years because I don't care. I'll show you what you're approved for. But now we're going to actually pare that back and find out what you actually want to be spending on a monthly basis, and then have the realtor only show you properties that are in that range. And literally, they night and day from somebody that got pre-approved at another bank, they go, wow, you're different. You really actually care about what I'm looking for. The other guy was just telling me I'm approved at 500. I kept telling him I don't want to be above 350. And he said, but you're approved for this number, and I didn't feel comfortable. So right away, when you actually take your commission out of the equation and help them find something that works for them, you're going to build trust, you're going to build rapport, and you're going to get more deals.
Yeah.
Good.
The referrals from that.
No, definitely.
Good.
We're going to the questions now. It's kind of like quick answers, and we'll go through a few.
Not so quick. You could take your time if you want. There's no yes or no answers.
Oh, really?
No.
What habits helped make you successful?
Yes. Oh, you said no, yes or no.
I'm saying they're not yes
I know,
or no.
that's why. So say the question again. I already had the joke set up for whatever you asked. It was going to be yes or no.
What habits helped make you successful?
Giving back. It's the number one thing. Literally, if you can make sure that you're doing something every single day to give back, people will recognize it. And in the beginning, it's hard, right? Everybody in the beginning is eager to get a commission or earn an income. But even in the very beginning, I was doing things to give back, and that's how I've gotten to this level.
Hold on, before we go to the next one. For someone just starting out, what habits would you say they should have if they're getting started in the mortgage business? Like how many calls, how many meetings they should be having, or, just numbers wise?
So for me, the number one thing, there's all these sales tips, right? There's all these different tricks and tips that I don't subscribe to at all. Really, the number one people that I've gotten business from, they've become friends. They've been to dinners at my house. They've been out on my boat with my wife and I. They've been to my wedding. These are things that you're actually, if you want a good tip or a good trick, be friends with people. Literally be yourself and be genuine. People like to do business with people that they like, and there's no shortcut to anything.
What if you got the chance to start over, what would you do differently?
Wow. That makes you think, right?
Yeah.
I would have still gotten in the mortgage business. If I could have done something differently in the beginning, I think I would have really worked with realtors more years ago, okay? I would have focused on realtors that were just starting their business, because so many guys in the mortgage industry, what they do is they go after these top agents, okay?
Whales.
Absolutely. And then you're just seen as kind of like a fly if you keep calling them. What you really want to do is build relationships with people that are also getting into the business at the level that you are and help them grow their business. Do strategy sessions, be there for them and help them grow. And it really builds a loyalty, right? Most of these mortgage guys, they're all following these like tips and tricks that these gurus are giving them. And really, it's about just being genuine and going and trying to find real relationships with people that you want to work with. That way, you actually can go to bed at night and actually feeling really good about what you've done for the day.
Also, when you do that, you're just starting out and you're helping, a real estate broker grow their business. You guys are helping each other grow each other's businesses, just starting out, as opposed to, being out on your own.
That's the way you do it.
Because when you start as a broker, like when you're starting your business, like the most important thing is getting those deals to the closing table.
It takes time, right?
Right.
And that's it. You're not good unless you have deals, and you're not getting any deals unless you're good. So once you actually get a few under your belt, and it's just about being genuine, actually making the tough phone calls. I'm sure there'll be questions about it, but those are some things that I absolutely have to do.
How do you stay motivated?
I want to hit 100 million, right? So for me, it's like a game, right? So for me, when I can actually have a goal that I'm striving towards, it actually helps me get up in the morning. It helps me stay on track throughout the day. And you got to literally have written goals. So in the beginning of every single year, I write down the number of transactions I want to close, how many people I need to speak to get to that level. And then it's always there kind of in the back of my mind each day. And you'll find me here sometimes till 8 or 9 or 10 at night. People always see me on my Friday Facebook post where I take a photo and I say, I'm still the last one in the office, damn it.
What was the worst piece of advice that you ever got?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Skip that one. Let me come back to that. Let me think about it.
You might have said it, but why did you decide to become a mortgage broker? Like, how'd that come about?
I don't want to drive people around. I mean, it's kind of a joke answer, but it's really true. Like, I knew that I wanted to be in real estate. My aunt and uncle up in Traverse City, Michigan are big agents, and I've always seen what they had done. And I really wanted to be in real estate, but I didn't want to literally be the person driving somebody around. I wanted to actually be the numbers guy. So it's all about finding something that you're actually good at. And once you find, I'm not good at much. If I can find one or two little things that I'm good at, that's a win for me. Yeah.
Having 8 or 9 guys on your team, what is your best hiring tip or secret?
You have to hire people that are genuine. I've literally seen people that are like big shots, but when you get them in a room and you hear the way that they talk about family or their wife, it's all about being somebody who's actually genuine, somebody that you feel comfortable putting other people in front of, right? So for me, the number one thing is about losing when you build a reputation, it's really easy to lose a reputation if you hire the wrong person. And there's an old phrase, right? It takes a lifetime to build a reputation, but just minutes to lose it. Yeah. And that's the number one thing I'm looking at. I don't need the most flashy person or the woman who's closing the most deals, but I need somebody who's genuine, who really is actually looking out for the people that I'm putting in front of them. So it all comes back down to, would you take that person over to dinner with your mother, right? Would you bring them home? And those are the type of things that I'm looking for. It's in here, and I'm pointing to my heart. It's literally like something that you can feel when you're interviewing somebody, and it doesn't matter how many years they've been in the business or what kind of production they've done. It's, will they make you look good, or is there a chance they could make you look bad? And if there's a chance that they're ever going to make you look bad, you move on.
Well, because everyone you work with is a representation of yourself and your business. So it's like, if you work with someone that's going to make you look bad, then you're hurting your business.
People make that mistake all the time because they have done a lot of production, or they come from money, or there's all these different motivating factors why somebody would hire somebody that maybe you would take a chance on. I want to take a chance on somebody who has a heart, but maybe I could teach, versus somebody that has already done it, but could make you look bad in any way.
Think they know everything.
Sure.
It's funny you say it's not flashy when you're wearing a giant Cubs ring.
It's very subtle, right? So there's nothing. It's a World Series Cubs ring that I ended up buying after the Cubs won in 2016.
Hey man, he waited his whole life for that. Don't take. This is 100 years worth of.
I love you, man. That's awesome.
Have you ever turned down a client, and if so, why?
Yeah, there's a lot of times where it literally helps me keep my pipeline going, where I'll say, I'm not the person for you on this transaction, okay? And there's a lot of times where somebody will refer me a client, and I know right away that I can't necessarily help them, but I don't just hang up the phone, which a lot of mortgage guys do to get to the next dollar, right? I'll actually take a little bit of time and find them the right person. Perfect example is, I'm a residential mortgage professional, and a lot of people will send me maybe a commercial transaction that I just cannot do. But I'll literally still take a few minutes, make sure that they have that relationship with me, and then I'll refer them to a person. And you'd be so surprised when somebody hears that you're not going to make any money off of them, and that you still spent 15 or 20 minutes. I've gotten referrals from people that I knew I could not help, but because of the time that I spent up front with them, I've gotten deals in the future.
Right, and they're going to buy a house eventually, so they'll come back to you anyway.
And their brother or sister might be buying a house. And since I
Right.
wasn't just focused on the commission, since I wasn't just focused on what could I do right now to earn money, they hear that, right? And that's the number one thing. You can't be commission hungry. You always want to close commissions. And that's what I'm doing at every single day, is always trying to grow the business. But you literally look at it from that long-term view. And if you can truly help them, even if you can't help them, you're helping them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. We had Nick Lightber from Exit on the podcast a little while back, and he was saying that he doesn't turn down like rental clients, because somebody that might rent right now,
You're damn right.
they're gonna buy a house eventually. They're gonna sell
them
the
right.
house, buy a condo, sell that condo, buy a bigger house. So it's like, out of a little rental commission, you could get 3 or 4 or 5, 6 sales out of that.
Here's a quick story on that. I remember a client that I did 4 or 5 years ago that was just buying a studio in Lakeview. Okay, it was $110,000, and it was one of the smaller transactions. My average loan size is $500,000 or $600,000, but to do a little, what people would think of as a rinky-dink $100,000 transaction, it probably only put $500 in my pocket. But that person was turned down so many different times, not because they weren't qualified, but the bank didn't really want to give them enough time. Or when you actually can take somebody that was kind of just stepped on and you actually take care of them, those are the people that send you the most business. And that client probably is responsible for 7 or 8 deals in the last 4 years.
Wow.
Referrals.
That's huge. What is one thing that you find to be true that most people would disagree with?
Well, it's about rate, right? It's not the number one question you should be asking a mortgage broker. When you call up somebody and say, what's your rate? The only thing they're going to do is either lie to you, or you're not actually getting the full story. So you really want to say, what are the rates and fees, and what do I actually qualify for? So most people think the most important thing on a mortgage is the interest rate. Well, at the end of the day, 2 months from now or 2 years from now, you're not writing the interest rate on a check. You're writing the payment amount on the check. And if you paid a ton of extra money to get an extra 1/8 of a point off because the mortgage broker was making a big commission, that's the question you need to ask yourself, and actually dig in and learn some more things about the process. And that's the reason why people just call Joel.
We'll go back to this other question we skipped. What was the worst piece of advice that you ever got?
I said skip it because I actually didn't want to go back to it. So let me think about it. The worst piece of advice, it was, it truly was a situation where you wanted to be all things to everybody. Don't turn down a deal. And sometimes you absolutely have to turn down a deal. Sometimes you have to fire an agent that's been sending you business. If they're not respecting the relationship, there's a lot of times where I'm just done. There's a lot of people that know me for my generosity, and they can take advantage. And so you have to surround yourself with people that are like-minded and also giving and understand your time is valuable. So don't be everything to everybody.
Do you have a favorite failure? Is there one that sets you up for future success?
I used to strike out at T-ball all the time, right? Like I couldn't even hit the ball. So people always think like, well, did you play? They see the Cubs ring and they go, are you a player? And I go, do I look like I'm an athlete? No. Even at T-ball, I struck out. And so it was one of those things where if you can be humble and you can be a little self-deprecating, nobody likes anyone that's bragging all the time, right? If you can actually just be humble and find some of your shortcomings and just be a genuine person, you feel a lot better about yourself anyway. Nobody likes to hear even in this, you've heard a lot about me in this conversation, but I think what's important is making sure that you're actually being humble and finding some of those things that you were a shortfall on. And I always make the joke that I struck out at T-ball all the time because the ball's right there. Right. You should be able to hit it.
Stick.
Yeah, it is.
Why do you do what you do? What gets you through the tough times?
Family. I have a wonderful wife. You got to have people that you can turn to, and she's like my best friend. We got married in 2016. Hi, Christine. I love you. It's one of those things where if you don't actually have people around you, go out and find people that can support you and make you better, whether it's a spouse, a family member. Those are the things that on every single day, at the end of the day, we talk about what we're thankful for, and we talk about what we're grateful for.
Thanks, Charles. I want to really thank you for taking the time out and meeting with us. Where can people find you?
Everywhere, right? Where can people not find me? You can't log on to social media without seeing me on my Facebook page. So Joel Schaub at guaranteedrate.com or guaranteedrate/Joel Schaub.
Do you want to give out your phone number or no?
773-654-2049 is the direct number for me. Again, 773-654-2049.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Till next time, guys. And that's it for another episode of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. One last thing before you head off, though. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us your thoughts on iTunes. It would really mean a lot and help us reach more people. You can also find us on Facebook at Profits Over Wages Podcast, as well as on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time.